How's it going, everyone? So there's been a lot of hoopla about this Martin Shkreli guy, and it's so ridiculous. I just have to respond. All these people are mad at this one person who had manufacturing rights to a certain drug that was used to help people who were suffering from HIV/AIDS, and he jacked up the prices on it, and he could because he purchased those rights. And where did those rights come from? And this is the funny part. Oh, government, right. Government is the agency that keeps people from being able to replicate certain types of products that are considered patented. So these rights are wholly a creation of the government. And that's the nature of IP law, which I'm vehemently against. So here it is, a bunch of people are mad at this person for using a type of government-granted monopoly. Now, of course, he doesn't have like the pure unlimited rights. He just bought a certain type of limited right. But the point is that he is simply using what the government has created. And the scarier part is how much disconnect people have when they look at government intervention into market and how much that jacks up all prices. When government intervenes in the market, when they make all these regulations and all these burdens with paperwork, and all these different types of things with compliance and FDA approval and stuff like that, they are the ones who are jacking up the prices ultimately. They are the ones who are keeping people from getting those early forms of test trials because they're keeping manufacturers of different types of drugs from being able to work with people early on. And so in a Freakonomics kind of analysis, hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people die because the FDA prevents people from being able to use test trial products until they give approval, and that can take forever. And then they give monopolies to those ideas to prevent other people from replicating things cheaper. Of course, there's people who want to make arguments about, hey, well, if these companies put all this money into it and the research, shouldn't they reap the reward? Well, it's like this person is doing that. Just because he bought the rights to do that doesn't somehow take him out of the process of being someone who's in the chain of the market. There was this commentary from some of these congressional people drilling him like, oh, you didn't do this or make this, you just bought the rights. Like, yeah, guess what? Someone is out there administrating those rights that were created by government in order to manage the sales and profitability of a product. Everything in the market hinges on people, that is individuals, managing those types of things and recognizing communication and needs and wants and balancing those things. And it really just blows my mind when people cannot see that this is somebody who isn't in his own work being an asshole or something like that. This is just somebody who is literally following government law to the T and following government restrictions to the T. And if anything, the government is ultimately responsible for any type of slowing, you could say, or reduction in services or care when it comes to medicine. The government has been literally preventing all sorts of medicines from being released under the guise of needing to check it under the FDA. And so I'm just totally floored at how ignorant people are. And then they get angry about this guy's smug attitude because, oh, he said, hey, I'm going to not speak. I'm invoking my Fifth Amendment right to counsel. And you're like, oh, why isn't he speaking? It's like, this is the reason why lawyers are still making a lot of money in some cases. Because there are so many fools out there who literally know nothing about the nature of the legal system. And they think that by somehow talking to congressional officers at a hearing, that's going to somehow make things better. Anything that's said can be used and held against you in court. So to say anything would be absolutely stupid. And anybody who goes and testifies in front of congressmen and women and opens themselves up to the floodgates of potential federal law sanction would be a fool. And that's why this guy is just smirking, because it's so silly to think that anyone who has a halfway decent lawyer and some legal counsel and smarts about that would actually answer any question whatsoever. Why would you incriminate yourself, even if it's just incidentally? And this is just the reaction from people really evidences how deficient people are at understanding how anything works as far as government and laws go, um, and how deficient they are in critical thinking and logical thinking. People are so foolish and so ignorant when it comes to how the system works with government and how economics works that it really is so easy to manipulate the masses these days. And that's where you get, people like Trump and Bernie Sanders able to run, because it's so easy to put out lies and get people to believe it. It's so easy. Nobody has any concept of how markets work, how prices work in signals of communication, how the government's legal structure works in terms of granting monopolies to begin with, and how their interference raises prices and costs for everybody. The greatest riser of prices has been the government through inflation and the Federal Reserve. That's caused more people to die because of lack of resources and other types of poverty that are unseen. You don't see the losses, because that's the problem with the economics of the unseen, is when there's interventions and there's sufficient interventions, you don't get to see what could have been done better. We only know what can be done better because of the freedoms that have been permitted to go unfestered, by governments. We've seen the prosperity that's come. And people who never experience that, and they see, whatever technology is available in their very oppressive state of existence, they might think that's like the best thing there is, but they don't know what's better. And that's exactly how it is with government intervention right now, is that a lot of people are not knowing what's better or what's freer and more prosperous. And things are getting worse and worse because of government interference in the market, and because of these artifices of seeming to be, protection against uh, crony monopolies. Meanwhile, the government is the largest monopoly on violence and force, and they're granting monopolies through law to people with IP law, copyright law, giving them the unbridled power to do whatever it is they want with certain products, release, not release, raise prices, drop prices, without anybody being able to compete in the market. Now, in this case, people can compete against him, and it's already happened because he doesn't own all the rights, potentially, to this type of drug. But it's really maddening to see this level of total ignorance about both the legal system, one thing I'm very familiar with, and economics, another thing I'm very familiar with. And this combination, this intersection that really, sums up the affront on this guy's life, as far as things that he's being attacked on. I honestly, I don't know who he is as far as personality, as far as his life and his heart of hearts or anything like that. But I'm right there with him in his attitude. It's laughable to think that congressional officers, people who are working, as representatives, could grill him about causing hurts when they're sending off people across the world to drone bomb women and children over in Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria, and have caused, through interventionist policies, 1 million deaths and casualties and civil unrest because of the intentional disruptions by the United States government of the peoples around the Middle Eastern area. Those are it's really the murderers and thieves trying to accuse someone of being, a bad person for making something expensive for people who might need it. And it's like, it's the most socialist critique too, right? Oh, they have a right to this medicine. No, they don't. No one has a right to have anything that is produced by another person, that is owned by another person, physical property. That's what socialism is. When people are trying to be like, oh, the state can take your stuff and redistribute. No, that's not how that works. People have the ability and freedom to consensually trade with each other and build up wealth, and should be unmolested in that, but it's not the case. So, it's really the worst of all worlds. Legal ignorance on the legal system, economic ignorance, on how economics actually works, in practice, and ignorance as to this person's attitude in terms of the dichotomy of evil actors. The people would look at this guy and be like, oh, he's such a jerk, or he's so gross, or look at that, wipe that grin off of your face. And it's just like, you really have no idea that the people who are actually murdering people and making things more expensive are the people asking the questions of this guy. Those are the people who are causing millions of people across the globe to starve, to die, and to suffer through their policies, their interventionist policies, their policies on taxation, their policies on trade, tariffs and barriers. I mean, it's mind-blowing when you actually know who the real evil people are. This guy looks like nothing. He looks like a saint compared to the people who are questioning him. So that's just my 2 cents. I'm just so livid about it and just how people are reacting. I just had to say it. So doesn't mean this guy is some perfect guy or that he's, a voluntarist or like he has libertarian values and respects others. It's just when you consider the accusations of what he's being accused of doing versus what he's actually done in terms of, what the government's going after him for, it's just mind-blowingly idiotic. All right, talk to you later.